Welcome to My Career Journey, a podcast that highlights different career paths, tackles tough topics, and shares actionable tips and insights. I'm Emily.
And I'm Allegra. We're your hosts and both career switchers. In each episode, we'll talk about our experiences, learn from others, and help you find happiness and success in your career journey. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Hello, lovely listeners. We are so glad that you chose to spend a few minutes with us today. This is our first recording of 2026, and we are introducing a new segment called a deep dive.
Yeah, so this is a segment where we focus on a specific topic that people approach differently. And the topic that we're going to cover in today's episode is interview prep.
Interview preparation. Okay, why did we choose this topic as a subject of our deep dive? One, this topic is timeless. I don't think we're ever going to stop needing to do interviews or preparation. So hopefully this has legs that carry a long time. It is very relatable, and interviewing applies pretty much to every person, every industry. But as we know, it can be daunting, and everyone prepares a little differently. So in the spirit of learning from each other and from you, we're going to share our process today, and we really do want to hear yours. So help us get the conversation started. Hopefully make it easy for someone else to feel even more confident going into their next interview.
So we're going to start with a segment called Did You Know? Interesting facts. Interesting facts that we found while researching. To set the scene. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm so curious to see what you found and what you have. The first one is that practicing out loud is a lot more effective than written answers, even when you know the answers well. And then I also found something that said that your first spoken version of an answer is usually 20 to 30% worse than your written version.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh. So, I mean, it makes sense because, I mean, from experience, I can definitely say my spoken versions are not as well crafted as my written versions.
No, and we're responding to things real time, variables. So that makes sense. Wow. Okay. 20 to 30%. Goodness.
But according to cognitive psychology research, it says that when you say your answers out loud, it significantly improves your recall and your clarity and confidence under pressure, which will help you during the interview.
Yep. Similar to that, I found there's a common theme in like Harvard Business Review career research, and it talked about the STAR method, right? And I'm sure this may be familiar, but one of the things that I know I've had struggles with is like keeping things really tight so that there's space for questions. So if you don't know STAR method, there's actually had a research on how responding to like behavioral interview questions is really effective with this. It consistently allowed people interviewing you to talk about competencies. So STAR is where you tell a story of your, experience with situation, task, action, and result. So think about the STAR as you're crafting your own responses, getting them to be nice and concise. Have you used that method before, Emily?
I have. Except I kind of adjusted a little bit depending on the questions, but yes, I use the basic framework.
Yep. And then I don't think we could go through this without talking about AI, but it's interesting. 72% of organizations use AI-driven tools in recruiting and talent management. I know that's a lot of questions. How is AI a part of this? I know that we're talking about interview prep, but I thought from the other side is like, oh, okay, how does this fit in? Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And especially AI, like it's just, I've been involved with a lot of AI ethics, and there's just so much stuff that could go wrong with that. So that's a whole other discussion we can have.
Okay. So last fact, then we get into our actual prep. I know that Indeed.com says it takes about 5 to 10 hours of prep per interview. So I'm wondering, how soon do you start preparing? What is your 5 to 10 hours? When does that clock start for you?
So that sounds about right, actually, for me.
I think so too. I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I usually start preparing about 1 to 3 days before I have an interview. But if I'm really excited for the job, I'll prepare like as soon as I know I have the interview, if it's before then. But the reason I do that is so I can keep all the information like fresh in my mind.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. 1 to 3. That feels really short for me. I'm like,
Really?
I need to
Oh,
go
wow.
right away. I need to,
Okay.
I mean, and I guess you could even be cheeky and say you never stop preparing, but that's not yet. The
Yeah.
reason I say that is because I have like my system is it just builds on itself. And then, if you're in a
Mm,
job, then you should be thinking about how does your experience update to your resume and update to other things, and like what are the stories that you are living out now in your work experience that you could use later. And sometimes it's hard to reflect on that when you're in crunch time for an interview.
yeah.
But I start preparing as soon as I get either an ask for a recruiter or I see the job opening and decide to apply. Um,
Mm,
and I think the other thing is like preparing. Part of my preparation is reaching out to people that might work at that company, which,
okay.
right, sometimes takes time to get connected to them. Or if you message them on LinkedIn, you haven't talked in a while, setting up a meeting, like being able to do that before you actually interview
Right.
is, a little tough. And then, we talked about the power of practicing with what you shared, and that takes time too. So I think that's why I start as soon as possible, because I'm like, if I need to schedule these things, I need to get on it right now.
Yeah. For me, it helps me focus a little bit more and helps keep my mental load a little bit less when I'm not
Yeah,
preparing so far in advance, just
that's
because
true.
I usually have other stuff going on and then I don't want to add to the stuff I need to think about.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's a capacity thing, but it's also an approach thing. For me, my brain just works. I'll do like a little bit as soon as possible. You know,
Mhm.
I feel nervous just
Right.
like at crunch time, even though I understand that. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So, what is your actual preparation process?
So I have a Google Drive that I started when I began my career transition outside of music, and it's called Job Hunt.
Mhm.
It's my big folder where I have subfolders, and I have a new folder for every company that I've applied for, and I have different subfolders for career reflections, feedback that I gather as I go.
Mm,
And then within each company folder, I have the resumes, cover letters, email follow ups, interview prep questions, research that I've done.
mhm,
And for every interview person that I know I'm going to talk to, I'll create a doc that has notes I've taken about them, about their role in the company, about things that I anticipate them asking. And then I'll also use that to document notes taken from the actual interview.
mhm.
Um, I tend to just have a lot of content. So I do it with Google Drive folders. How about you?
Right. Yeah, I have a Google Doc for every interview, and I start by writing out things about me, like a very brief overview of my background, passions, volunteer work, related to the job, of course, strengths, and areas of opportunity. And I may not
Mhm.
need them, but I have been asked about all of them before.
Yeah.
So I do write them out. And
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's so helpful having everything in one place, because then you're not reinventing the wheel every time. You have it consolidated, because
Exactly.
chances are your values and your about me isn't going to change dramatically, but you can tweak it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I usually pull from past documents and just, I don't start from scratch every time.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
no.
and then I write down questions about the job that aren't covered in the job description,
Yeah.
just so I know, because I'm not going to waste time going through the interview process if I know the basic details like working hours or what I'm going to be doing is not going to be the right fit.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and then I think about examples and stories that highlight my decision making process, collaboration process, and impact. And then I also think about challenges that I've faced, both work wise and people wise, because they usually ask at least one question about each.
Do you update those as you go? Like, even if you're not actively interviewing?
Oh, no, no, no. When I have the interview, I usually just try to think about recent stories or I try to pull from other ones that I've already written down. I feel like I should do it as I go, but then if I don't have an interview for a really long time, then it's not up to date. So,
Yep. I think, and I think if I have a built-in kind of documentation with my like quarterly and half year performance reviews. So in some ways I
mm,
have that excuse because they're actually detailed and I have to tell stories
okay.
about that.
Yeah.
I also get written feedback from colleagues. So I know that stuff is there if I
Mhm.
need it
Right.
ever for the future. Uh, I think past Allegra was a little better at, writing it down and just taking notes of like, oh, that was a really good thing at work. I should tell that story. But I do know it's there in the performance reviews. But I think if it's not in a performance review or something, it might behoove people to be like, okay, take note of this one, write a quick thing, because it's harder to remember 6 months, a year later.
Exactly.
If you have to.
The last thing I do is I write down questions to ask the specific interviewers.
Yes.
So that I usually wait to do until I know who's interviewing me and what the goal of the interview is, because they can differ, and I'll tailor those based on the role or company.
Yep, that's true. It's different. Like what a recruiter is going to ask you is different than a director at the company.
Exactly.
And knowing how to prep for that. What you and I just shared, we have so much content. And I think one of the most powerful things is simplicity. That's one of the best tools in your toolkit for having a memorable interview, and drilling it down to answer, okay, by the end of my time with this interviewer, what will they know about me? What are the must-haves? How do you do that research about those people?
So about the people, I go on their LinkedIn and research how long they've been at the company. I research their previous jobs and where they've worked before, where they went to school, what they studied. I look at any of their posts. I also look at anything they're involved in or that they're passionate about, if they have it on their profile. And I mostly try to look for things I can potentially connect with them on a professional or personal level.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think LinkedIn has been the best one for that. I think sometimes websites can have blogs from leaders, or if I can't find things on LinkedIn, which is rare, usually it's the spot, I'll go to YouTube or Google and just see. There might have been something from their past company that's relevant, actually, right? It's not always their current company that has the best information, but I think that connection is really powerful, right? Like maybe we like the same writer. Maybe we went to the same college, or maybe they're from the town where I spent a winter playing opera. And those kind of connections really humanize you as a candidate, and also just show that you care, right? When you start
and that you
with
put in the time and the effort. Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
These are humans. It's like, yes, it's a performance in some ways, but really it's just humans. My dad always said, make a new friend.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows? You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what's going to happen. So, okay. So how do you research the company itself?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, first thing, if I can do it, I'll phone a friend. If I know someone who has worked there or is working there, I want to know. One, because you're not always going to get the true story from an interview process. You'd like to think you are, but if maybe they have a culture of burnout, or maybe someone who absolutely loves working there and you get to know their why beforehand, it can really shape kind of how I go into that. If I trust that person, I'm not going to reach out to just anybody, but if I have a friend, I'm going to do that. And then hopefully they'll have advice too for the interview process.
Yeah.
The other thing I've found really useful is Indeed.com. And this is not sponsored by Indeed.com, I promise. Although if you're interested, no, I'm just kidding. But they have this section, and I think especially if you're a career shifter and you've never gone through these types of interviews before, check out their interviews tab of the company site. Go to the company, and then you can see interviews. They show past questions that people have been asked by job title. They show how difficult people perceived the interview to be, how many rounds. And while you have to know not all of the information is 100% applicable to you or even accurate or vetted, it's a really good place to start to kickstart your brainstorming.
For me, that actually wasn't helpful during my job search, because my role is so specialized. I found that the questions I was being asked were like completely different, or like the process was completely different than what they had on the site. So for me, at least, I do most of my research on the website. I look up their mission statement and core values. If they have a product or service, I'll look up what they offer and note anything that I find interesting. And if it's like an agency or consultancy, I'll look at the types of clients they work with or the types of projects they have. And I'll kind of learn about the company that way.
Yeah.
And for me, that's been my approach. But I know it's different, and we have different roles too. So,
well, I do that too. I do all the deep dives on the company, but for the actual interview questions, I'll look at
Mhm.
Indeed.com. But yeah, I think the who are we, the about us, and then especially in addition to everything you said, clients, focus, priorities,
Mhm.
growth areas, like how are they marketing what they're doing? It shows you where their focus is because that's where they're
Right.
spending the research for their internal communications.
Yeah.
The resources, not research. But I think, yeah, and socials too, actually. Same thing with like,
Oh, okay.
what
Interesting.
are they showing? Sometimes Instagram can show, here's how we appreciate our employees, or here's what we did.
Mhm.
If they're active, if they're not active, that can tell you something and how they're doing that. Uh,
Right.
Even podcasts, I've found, if you go to the website and you find their leadership, and again, this is like if I
Mhm.
really care about this job,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I
you
will do
know,
all that deep dive. Yeah. Mhm.
yep. But I actually like podcasts or YouTube videos because then I'm not having to read through everything and I'll put it on in the background. Say they have an interview with the CEO or the president. I'll listen to that conversation and say, what are
Mhm.
they about? What does that tell me about their direction for this company and how their employees might be engaged or treated?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, after you do all this research, where do you apply it in the interview process?
Well, I think that LinkedIn connection that we were talking about, that's like the first 30 seconds of the interview, right?
Mhm.
Saying, oh, hey, like I saw you grew up here. I have that connection. Like my
Mm,
grandpa used to live there, whatever. Um, because I think that's a good way to break the ice
right.
and to set a tone for engagement. So I think that LinkedIn research about the person comes in immediately about that
Okay.
first impression. Um,
Mhm.
how do you use, I mean, I know it can be sprinkled throughout, but that's the
Yeah.
beginning is where I try and the first few minutes connect on a human
So,
level.
going back, I actually even use the job description as a resource. So,
Yeah, they tell
I
you a lot in that job description. If
they
you
do.
get one, you don't always get one, which is frustrating.
Oh, okay, yeah, usually I'll have one, but it's not always they don't always know what they want, so you have to, take them with a grain of salt. That's why you have the interview process, but, yeah, so I use any keywords or you can find a lot about the company's language and the words that you're using, so I'll use, like, buzzwords from the job description in my resume if they're not there already,
Yes.
and that's especially important for my industry at least, because terminology is not consistent or standardized,
But
and
even something with
yeah.
consulting, if I were to say like change management best practices and they have principles instead of best
Mhm.
practices, there's little things that don't change what you're saying or your own
Right.
authenticity, but you can just shift to be like, oh, this is how you talk about it. And it's a small switch that shows you're paying attention.
Exactly, yeah, and then I weave the mission statement or core values into the cover letter,
Hmm.
and yes, I do write cover letters for anything I apply for, but who knows if they actually help. But I do think they did help me during my transition at least.
Yeah. Well, I think
Um,
it's, and some of it is mindset prep, right? The practice that
mhm,
you do in terms of how you explain and introduce yourself in a cover letter, I feel like is directly translatable to what you do in the interview process, right?
yeah, absolutely, 'cause yeah, I take what I used in the cover letter, and then I'm able to kind of weave that into my about me section, or
Yep.
you can reuse all the content in different ways.
Yeah.
So,
So much of preparation is helping you reduce anxiety so you can show up as your best self, right? I'm
mhm,
prepared.
yeah,
And actually, so we're talking about prep too. Mindset prep is a huge thing for me too. It's not the technical side of here's the skills they're looking for, here's what the company's priorities are, here's my background.
mm,
It's more of the how am I like almost on a spiritual level ready to show up. I talked
mm,
about in our how we made the switch episode talking about like affirmations and mantras, and I will read those, have them ready right before, even at the top of my interview document, like
mm.
preparation. Like you have the ability to think on your feet and have done so many times, and remind myself of those examples so that I think, you know what, I've done this before. I am ready. I am good to go. And having a healthy mindset and confidence before going in helps me deliver on all the preparation that I've done those 5 to 10 to 20, whatever hours, right?
Yeah, so for me, I think the preparation is what makes me feel prepared and confident, and what makes me have that mindset of, "Okay, I'm going into this job interview knowing that it's a two-way street." I think
Yep.
that's the biggest thing, and I'm going in there being like, "Okay, well, I'm interviewing them too, so what do I need to know? What do I need to ask them in order to feel confident that this is gonna be a good fit for both of us?"
Yep. Absolutely. And then I guess the last thing too is just like, I would just say again, have the must-haves, like the preparation for, especially with a spoken interview, you don't have a lot of time, right?
Right, exactly.
You know,
And
all this lived experience, what are the must-haves that you want to communicate by the end
exactly.
of this 30 minutes? And it's probably going to be more like 20 or 25 if, people don't show up on time, or if they want to give space for questions. You really don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I try to weave all the company research questions and all that stuff into the questions that I'm asking the people interviewing me.
Yeah, what do you call those? It's interviewers. We're interviewees?
Yeah, interviewers. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So it just shows that you've done your research and put in thought and effort into the interview process, and that you're not wasting their time asking general questions that you can just find on your own.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So what questions do you always prepare for?
We talked about a few of those, and I think there's the obvious ones but some are a little more industry specific too, like you were talking about. And sometimes I was even talking to a friend this morning, and she was like, yeah, they'll send me questions in advance, which some are standardized, right? Because of different roles and unions and all kinds of things. Right. But I think for client-facing roles, based on your background, how do you see yourself contributing to serving our clients, right? I think some of that. Do you want to just go back and forth and share questions that we have? Okay, what's one of yours?
Okay, the first one is tell me about yourself. That's number one to prepare for always.
Yep. Okay, why do you want to work at this company?
That was my second one. Being prepared for that one tells them a lot, because a lot of people don't prepare for it. So it makes you stand out when you do have a good answer.
Yeah. And if you don't have an answer, why are you taking the interview?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So my next one is tell me about a recent accomplishment where you made an impact, or some type of question related to that.
Yeah, it's similar. What achievement are you most proud of? So it's a slightly different lens of that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then some form of tell me about a time you had a conflict with a colleague, or a colleague that was tough to deal with, or had different opinions, and how you navigated that.
Yeah.
That's one I get on almost every interview.
Yeah. A consulting version might be a difficult stakeholder.
Yep. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Also on the train of difficulty, tell me about a time when you failed.
Yep. That's kind of like my last one. It's some form of challenge you faced in your work and how you dealt with it or overcame it.
Yep. Okay. I'll share one more. Okay. Tell me about a time when a project wasn't going well and what you did to get it back on track. Okay. We talked about that first question. Tell me about yourself. How do you do that? What is your approach to that? Bite size, Emily, in 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes.
I usually do 30 seconds just because I feel people losing interest after that. And it's hard to cut things down to 30 seconds because I've been involved with so much stuff.
You're just so fabulous. Just how do I tell the magnitude of who I am?
No. It's just because I had my music and going to Switch, and how do I, communicate that in 30 seconds?
Yep.
So I just write down, I went from violin to tech. Here's what I've worked on. Here's what I'm currently working on. And that's my basic format.
Love it. So simple. Mine's similar. And I think one of the things we mentioned, starting with connections, but like that grabbing attention to immediately show that you are engaging and enjoyable at some level, right? I want them to know that I care and I'm not taking like their presence for granted. But then also, I think having a strong opener that's either funny or interesting for me has been helpful. This is something I did with public speaking. I've tried when it was appropriate to open with laughter. Like I try and tell something that's funny because it breaks the ice and it shows we're all here together. So 2 examples of how I've done that. One, and just like kind of things that I've used. My career has been defined by 3 key turning points. And then I'll do boom, 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 right? And then if I'm interviewing for a consulting firm, I'm not your cookie cutter consultant, but it's something that's just a little different and it gets to that storytelling. And then I'm always thinking about the what's in it for me from their perspective, like what is most impactful for them to know that's still true to me. and then let them be curious, let them follow up. Because if you have something that's kind of your hook, I went from music to tech. That's really interesting. I would want to know about that, right? And I'll see it on your resume, but if you tell that in a way that's energizing, it gets them even more curious.
So what questions do you like to ask?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I'll say there's the questions I ask, but then I also listen to how they answer in general, because I think that's really telling. And if they don't make time for your questions, that's a red flag.
Right, exactly.
It's a two-way street, like we're talking about, and you need to know it's a good fit for you in addition to them knowing it's a good fit for them. So one of the things that I really think about in a job is growth. And so for me, one of the big questions is, what does growth look like for consultants or for employees at this company? What development opportunities are there for leaders in this role?
I ask the same thing.
Gotta know.
Yeah. Yeah, growth. And you mentioned it too, professional development. I mostly want to hear, like, is there a budget for it? Can I speak at conferences? Can I do other thought leadership projects outside of work?
Or certifications? Or are they going to expect you to do that on your own dime? Or do they care about how you are developing and retaining you through that?
Yeah. Another question I ask is, what does success look like in this role?
Yes.
That tells you a lot about what they're looking for.
Different side of that, but like, how does performance get measured? Right? There's so many. It's like, how do I get feedback? What's the culture of feedback, and how do people do that?
Yeah. I also ask what skills are most important for this role. And interestingly enough, they usually only answer with soft skills. They don't usually say technical stuff, even though it's important, but it's more like communication. It's more like proactivity, adaptability, flexibility, stuff like that.
I think, and sometimes you can see this from the website, but if I feel like I want to know this leader's specific kind of perspective on it, what are some priorities for the company this coming year and the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, okay. This is one of my recent ones that I've added. So is there anything culture related I would be expected to dedicate time to aside from my role? Like mentorship, employee resource groups, and team activities, because that can tell you a lot about like work-life balance, what's going to be expected of you, time commitment wise.
Yep. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, flip side of that, is there anything about working here you would change or do not currently enjoy, something that's being looked at for improvement within the company?
Okay, that's a good one. I have like a couple personalized questions that I do ask if I feel like I am comfortable with the interviewer.
Yeah.
So I do kind of a version of that. It's, what's the biggest challenge you faced so far and how have you dealt with it?
Yeah.
And I'll personalize that to based on the role or what they're working on. So like in the last interview I did, I asked, what's the biggest challenge you faced with generative AI and how have you dealt with it? So that's like good one you can tailor to anything.
There's some things that might, like, they should be in the job description, like travel preference, but that kind of stuff too. If it's not, ask the questions. Travel preferences, benefits that are important to you if you're talking to a recruiter or others. There's some stuff that, again, just don't take it for granted if it's not explicitly written out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think those are my main ones.
Yeah, there are some others I have, like in terms of hiring and growth of the company, but I think it's, there's
for those. Yeah, it depends on who you're talking to. Like if you're talking to a C-suite leadership executive, like I would ask those kinds of company questions.
Yep.
If you're talking to a manager, in our episode with Claire, she had a good one, like, what's your managerial style?
Yep.
Yeah, so you want to know your audience and tailor the questions specifically to them.
And also probably the timing, because sometimes you don't get to talk to the C-suite executive until it's basically offer time, right? So how do you really drill into that? This is a deal breaker for me if I don't know XYZ, because you don't always get the time. And I haven't found email to be as effective of a tool with those follow-ups as the actual interviews themselves, right?
Yeah. So do you follow up after every interview?
I do. Okay. I think the tough thing too is you don't get the direct email of who you're writing to,
right,
but
exactly.
Sometimes I'll write a note for the recruiter to pass on and say, could you please pass on this email? I enjoyed talking about XYZ. And I'll draft that for each person and ask them to pass it on if I don't have their contact.
I've messaged them on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
Before. But then it's weird. It's like, do you connect with a interviewer on LinkedIn?
I find they usually connect with me.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because they're curious. They want to scope you out. Yeah.
I can see that if that they've looked at my profile, but it's only usually after I get a job that I'll connect with them.
Mine, I had, I think 3 or 4 that have connected directly.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a size of firm thing too.
Yeah, maybe. It's Okay. Do you have anything else? Any advice?
All right. I think I do. I have some final advice, and I'm going to keep it to the theme of trying to be concise and simple. I'm going to keep it short and simple. A reminder from my dad, make new friends is a good approach. Be prepared, but make new friends. Research to the point where you feel ready. That means different things for different people at different times. Keep your story simple and make it easy for them to see you're engaging and enjoyable. And then I think the last one is practice makes better. Perfect is a myth. Practice makes better.
I love that. Yeah, my advice is along those lines. It's try recording yourself, practicing your answers, and listen back to it. I think it always makes such a huge difference for me. And as much as I hate listening to myself, I learn so much, and I'm able to adjust and improve before the interview. And then I at least feel more confident and prepared going into the interview.
Yes. Yeah. So. Even like while you're doing errands or practice going while you're going for a run. I actually have found that to be very effective for breath control because the heightened cardio mimics nerves sometimes. So it can be really helpful.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah. And then last thing I'll say is just like I mentioned before, doing your research shows that you're invested and interested. And it's one way to immediately make you stand out. And even if you can spend 10 minutes quickly researching the company and the people interviewing you, it'll show. So just always do your research.
Yep. Love it. All right.
Cool.
I think that was a deep dive.
Yes. Very deep dive.
If we missed anything, or if you think of something that has helped you or that you've learned didn't help you and you want to guide people away from a lesson you've learned, let us know. We want to hear.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
My Career Journey is produced by Emily Banzaf and Allegra Montanari. If you enjoy our content, follow us wherever you get your podcasts and find us on YouTube and Instagram at My Career Journey Pod. Thanks for listening.